Months now, the nation has been debating the prospect of an Islamic center, a mosque just 2 blocks north of the World Trade Center site. But missing from that debate has been the voice of the Imam that everyone is talking about, Feisal Abdul Rauf. Well, tonight, just moments ago, he broke his silence exclusively on CNN, and he made some big headlines. Breaking news tonight, he said if he had to do it over again, he would have chosen another site. He said when it comes to moving it, all options are on the table. But giving in now, he says, could strengthen radicals on all sides and threaten national security. We're going to talk extensively about that tonight, much more with people on all sides of the question. But first, though, I just want you to hear, in case you missed the whole thing, I just want to hear some of the most important things that the Imam said tonight, some of Soledad O'Brien's interview, starting with why, for now, he's not moving the center.
I am extremely concerned about sensitivity, but I also have a responsibility. If we moved from that location, the story will be that the radicals have taken over the discourse. The headlines in the Muslim world will be that Islam is under attack. And I'm less concerned about the radicals in America than I'm concerned about the radicals in the Muslim world.
Right, but given what you know now, would you have said, listen, let's not do it there? Because it sounds like you're saying, in retrospect, wouldn't have done it.
Well, yes.
You would not have done it.
If I knew that this would happen, this would cause this kind of pain, I wouldn't have done it. My life has been devoted to peacemaking.
There are so many people who say, so if you're saying it was a mistake, then why can't you get out of it and not do it?
Because we have to now make sure that whatever we do actually results in greater peace, not in greater conflict. So let's be clear. Calling this particular block sacred ground and what exists there, there's, you know...
strip clubs and delis, and I've been there a million times.
Right.
But I think when people call it sacred ground, they're saying something terrible happened on this spot.
We've got to be fair. You can't say a place which has strip joints is sacred ground. We've got to be just. We've got to speak the truth. We've got to have justice for everybody. We're a country of justice for all. Not justice for non-Muslims only, or some groups and not for others. Anger here, no doubt. But if we don't do this right, anger will explode in the Muslim world. If this is not handled correctly, this crisis could become much bigger than the Danish cartoon crisis, which resulted in attacks on Danish embassies in various parts of the Muslim world, and we have a much larger footprint in the Muslim world. If we don't handle this crisis correctly, it could become something which could really become very, 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 very dangerous indeed.
We discussed it. I want to bring in Soledad O'Brien now, along with Fareed Zakaria. Also, Andy Sullivan, a New York City construction worker who's encouraging other construction workers to refuse to work on the Islamic Center near Ground Zero. Rosaline Talon, whose brother was one of the firefighters who died at Ground Zero. Also tonight, Bruce Feiler, best-selling author of Walking the Bible, and as I mentioned, Fareed Zakaria, host of CNN's Fareed Zakaria. Fareed, let me start off with you. It does sound like he's saying, I mean, it sounds like there are talks, or they are open to the idea of moving this if they can find some sort of basically face-saving gesture. Did you read that?
I did read it that way, but I think what he was trying to say, what the Imam was trying to say, is that he's trying to be sensitive to the issue of how this will play.
Andy, you were on the program last night saying you don't believe he's a moderate. Did anything he say tonight change your mind? Actually,
he's done more good for my movement tonight than 100 demonstrations could have done. He shot himself in the foot so badly. You're not going to be able to chisel a smile off my face.
How so?
With the whole national security thing. That's a veiled threat. He's saying you make me move, and guess what? The whole radical Muslim world is coming after us. That's what I read. Mm-hmm. And when I was in the green room, Rosaline, we both came to the same conclusion. I actually wrote it down on a piece of paper and I showed it to her.
But Andy, if I may...
And I would say on 9/11, it didn't take a mosque for extremists to come and attack the World Trade Center and kill my brother. So what I'm finding here to be very disturbing is that now this mosque has to go up, or there'll be retribution. That's very disturbing, especially to hear Imam Rauf has come back from the Middle East, and that he must be hearing chatter or something over there to think that there's a possibility of retribution. That frightens me. And imagine when I first heard about this mosque, the first thing that scared me, and now I'm a layperson. Imam Rauf should have known this before he started on the path. I was very fearful for the security of New York. I mean, when I lost my brother, I couldn't believe, you know, that there were such extremists in the world. And now to think that if we don't build this mosque, that there's going to be retribution, that really upsets me. And when I had hoped...
But to the point that they're saying that it wasn't that unless this mosque is built on this site, there will be retribution. I think what Fried is interpreting it is as unless there's a resolution that...
Yeah, but he kind of said that the Muslims around the world are watching what we do here.
Which is
at this very site.
Seems to be true. I mean, do you believe that's true?
Oh, I do, but isn't that really scary that if we don't build this mosque, that as the old expression said, they'll be held to pay?
And he also called us radicals, in a very, you know, sublime sort of way. Anybody that doesn't agree with this mosque is a radical, and the radicals have taken over the discourse, is what he said.
I would also like to say that...
he didn't name, you know, people who were opposed to this mosque as radicals. He just talked about radicals in the United States.
He said if it was moved, he said radicals will take over the discourse. I take it as he's considering me a radical.
But again, if you listen to what he said, I think a couple of times, I don't have the exact quote, he said, but my real concern is about radicals in the Muslim world. Look, this guy's been fighting radicals within Islam for most of his life.
I consider that a threat. This is a turf war.
Right, I don't think you're understanding what I was saying.
I also sit here on the air last night, which is I think this is going to end up with a compromise, because I think, in fact, he opened the door, opened it wider, and started walking through that door tonight. But what I think is fantastic about what happened is look around us. You know, I mean, as I came in the studio tonight, there's news broadcasters out there, there's police. This is like the Super Bowl of interfaith relations. And for those of us who have participated in this conversation that came out of 9/11, this is truly advancing the ball, because what we're doing is we're getting the conversation out.
I'm sorry, the Super Bowl? This is not the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This is pain, and let me tell you, Imam Rauf said he reached out to family members before this mosque was going to be built. There was no contact with family members, and if he said there was, I'd like to see a list. That's a lie. And I would also like to say, my mom and I were so hoping that Imam Rauf would bring peace to the 9/11 families before this anniversary. I was so sure when he would come back from the Middle Eastern trip that he would come back and he would give us a gift of peace and say, I wanted this to bring peace, but I see that it's not, and I never meant to do this, and to maybe look for another location.
Rosalie, let me jump in here. I'm looking at this beautiful picture here, and
yes,
the peace that you were talking about, what those of us who are working very hard, including Feisal Abdul Rauf, to accomplish is to create a situation where there is not open conflict among the religions.
But why at Ground Zero? Yeah. Why does this have to be, why not bring it over to the Middle East? I think that would be a great location for the Cordoba Initiative. They're the people that attacked us at Ground Zero over in the Middle East, and why don't they learn to be tolerant? I think that's a fantastic location. The Middle East would be a wonderful place. New York's very tolerant already. New York has synagogues, mosques,
right,
and Catholic churches all coinciding, neighborly, in peace. This is the first real disturbance in New York since 9/11, and that's really sad to me. I'm so proud of New York.
This is the voice that we are trying to get out, which is to say that
but
what this city...
But why at Ground Zero? Why at Ground Zero?
Let me just try to answer what I think a lot of us are fighting for.
But you're not answering. Why at Ground Zero?
What the conversation that we're having is that what New York is about, and what this country is about, and what and it is about a situation where we have to say there is another voice in this country that is not the extremist.
And I think this whole mosque issue actually is transcending what's going on in the nation as a whole. First of all, I think the middle class, period, has been taken completely out of every conversation concerning any kind of giant legislation whatsoever. And I think this mosque issue is the enough is enough point.